All right, welcome back. So now we're talking about the idea of ethnicity. And ethnicity can get a little bit complicated, so I need you to hold on the ride for this one. So sometimes ethnicity can be called culture or understood as culture. And when we think of culture, there's lots of different cultures. There's mom culture, there's teen culture. So really what we're focusing on is race and speaking about ethnicity is tied to a place or a location and race. So first things first, obviously, or maybe not obviously, I'm a Black American. And I say Black American because my ancestors are here from the African diaspora. Now, before I even go any further, the African diaspora is the enslavement and movement of Africans from the continent of Africa to the United States. So basically, my ancestors were brought here against their will. So I'm an African American or Black American from the African diaspora. This is a different ethnicity than a first generation African American from Somalia, right? Our skin color may be the same or very similar, but our ethnicity is different. So we have a different lived experience, a different story. All of that can be different. The same as an African American living in California may have a different lived experience and see being an African American differently than a Black person living in New York City from the same African diaspora. And that's why I'm saying it can get a little bit complicated. So it's really important to understand that when you try to peg someone's ethnicity, like, oh, this Black person could be like this or should be like this or should enjoy these foods or these things, really, you should think of being an African American or a person of color sometimes in regions, right? Or sometimes by state or by lived experience. It's really hard to peg down using ethnicity as the one single way to identify a person. And really, you can get caught into stereotyping when you start to try to put one race of people into a single box just because the ethnicity of the person may be the same, African American from the African diaspora. I'm a Black woman, but my experience is totally different. So when you're thinking about ethnicity and your own ethnicity, you may be saying, well, I'm just American, right? Or what difference does that make? Or we're all the same underneath. And remember, we're talking about that, right? We're talking about this idea that's going back to that color blindness idea. So you need to really focus in. Now, if you say, well, it doesn't matter to me, I'm just American, that's totally fine. But be aware that everyone that you meet may not have that same experience. And so you need to be very careful that you don't think about other people as a universal experience as your own. It's very important, right? So again, ethnicity, very different from race in that ethnicities can vary depending on experience, on location, depending on when the person came to the United States, if the person is indigenous to the United States, which is a different topic altogether, but ethnicity is within there too. So you really need to be thinking about, when you think about ethnicity, it's more complicated than all Black people fill in the blank, or all Asian American fill in the blank, or all Pacific Islanders fill in the blank, right? Because it's very important that you focus on really the person as an individual and understand that they have their own experiences that may be different totally from someone else you may know. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to nationality.